Hello, and welcome to our series, Women in E-Mobility, Accelerating Women in the E-Mobility Sector. I'm Dr. Shelley Francis, co-founder and managing partner of EV Noir. And EV Noir's work centers on two areas. We work on electric, connected, shared, and autonomous mobility technology. And then we focus on two areas of work, e-mobility best practices and e-mobility diversity, equity, and inclusion. So during this series, we'll talk with leaders working across the e-mobility sector. We work on we focus on engaging women leaders. Our conversations center on their career trajectories, as well as how they got started working on the electrification, in that sector. We want to know what it's like for them working in electrification and e-mobility, as well as we discuss what are some of the emerging issues and trends that they're seeing in the space. So, as many of you know, we're in the middle of this huge shift in how we conceive, power, and innovate our sector. It's driven by an awareness of both the climate impacts as well as economic and workforce opportunities. So, there's no better time than now to just dive into this conversation. So today's session is brought to you by our team at EV Her. Now we're so excited today to talk with Kameale Terry. So Kameale Terry is the co-founder and chief executive officer of ChargerHelp. Now ChargerHelp is the first company exclusively dedicated to electric vehicle supply equipment, operations, and maintenance. And their mission is to increase EV charging efficiency, to ensure that mass EV adoption happens. So Kameale, we are excited to have you join us today, and welcome to Women in E-Mobility.
I'm so excited. Hello, Dr. Shelley.
Hello, Kameale. It's so wonderful to see you. And so which coast are you on this week?
I said the best coast. I'm on the West Coast. I'm gonna get something for that later. No, I'm in Los Angeles today.
We're so happy to have you here today. Let's start off our conversation today by giving our viewers a little bit more context about the work that you're leading and your expertise. So, as you know, and many people in the audience know that are watching, we're both co-founders. But co-founder life can be fun, but it is not for the faint-hearted. Okay, so tell us about ChargerHelp. Tell us about the type of work that you lead, and just tell us, the background, the impetus for you starting the company. So, just how did this all begin?
Yeah, the funny thing is, I feel as though I haphazardly stepped into climate tech. I used to work for a company. We made software for EV charging stations. But when I did get into that role, one of the things that started to stand out to me, I think this is going to sit well with you. Like, I'm from South Central Los Angeles, and it probably wasn't until COVID that I could see the Hollywood sign for my home. And I talk about this a lot. And the reason I could see the sign is because there was no smog. And so when I got into climate tech, started to learn more about the industry and then about the air, it really blew my mind that, like, we were breathing in chemicals and things that were literally killing us. Like, my mom passed away from lung cancer. My co-founder, her parents are from Compton. Both of her parents passed away for lung-related diseases. And so the core of, like, why we thought about ChargerHelp was that we're like, oh, okay, like, there's a real connection between the types of cars that we drive today and the quality of air and the livelihood of folks that come from communities such as ours.
Right.
So that was one thing. And then when I got into climate at that company, I was working, we were doing software for EV charging stations. And I started off as EV driver support. And so had a very, like, real experience of drivers showing up on site saying, hey, this station doesn't work. Me looking at my platform and saying, everything checks out here. And seeing that there was a disconnect and not really seeing anyone address that. And so fast forward, my first step to figuring out charging issues and reliability was to create a curriculum. The LA Clean Tech Incubator actually bought license to that curriculum, and they started to train folks in South LA. And that's where I met my co-founder, Yvette Ellis, and she was the career coach. And from there, we really started to delve into, like, why do these stations behave how they behave? We knew we needed a qualified workforce, but we knew that there was a technology angle that we could, step into. And happy to chat more about that. But the impetus of all of this started from this idea that, like, how we move today was literally killing folks. And my co-founder and I was able to like identify that and feel that in a very real way. And so we are all about this ideal of, yeah, how do we move people in a safer way? And how do we use innovation and technology and economic, development, all those things in order to get us into a better place.
I love that, Camille. It's so funny how, like, people are what I call accidental entrepreneurs. And that sounds like, you accidentally walked into this space and now, like, you just, you guys are taking over this particular niche market, and it's incredible. And it's so important, and you're changing people's lives, like, both from, you know, helping to reduce the impact of transportation emissions in terms of having more EV drivers, utilizing charging stations that are working. But then you're also giving people a career opportunity, a career path within your company and your organization. And just, with everything that you, Yvette, the rest of your leadership team are taking on, how are you taking care of you? And
Mm,
obviously, we're going to talk about like other aspects of your career, your company, what it's like to be a woman entrepreneur and leader in this space. But I do want to talk a little bit about like the balancing act and mental health and well-being, because that is like a critical piece of being able to be present and showing up for yourself. And that's definitely something that I see top of mind for even our workforce when we're hiring. Like, what is that balance? What's the support that's available to staff? Because our pace as entrepreneurs and just in e-mobility as a whole, it just moves so quickly. So,
yeah.
what are the things that you are doing to help maintain your well-being?
Yeah, I mean, I like for faith believing people. I talk to Yvette a lot about how I feel as though I've been like groomed for this position for most of my life, and I'm young. I'm only 35,
Mhm,
but very early on, I had like leadership responsibilities. I built out teams before, and I've also done a lot of stuff at the detriment of my health
mhm.
very early in my career, and so I had some really like real rock bottom moments of just going too hard, doing too much, and not realizing that doing 24-hour days, if like the next 3 days you can't like get up and do anything, actually is not the most impactful. And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, I have to be a very good steward of like this body. And so I experienced that for my first part of my career. I was a banker, a business banker, and just ran at that. Right. And so now people are always, I think they always find it funny because I said like I don't work on weekends. I
Excellent.
do 2 massages a month. And then like if I'm in a time that where it's like I am like very stressed out, I will log off. But in those moments when I'm not doing that, like I was just chatting with you, I did 2 red eyes, three
Right.
sits in a span of 3 days. So when I am going, right, I'm doing going, but then I also already have like my massage and stuff booked for next week. And it's like
Excellent.
this balance. And sometimes people are like work-life balance, but to me, it's a work-life integration and
Mhm.
figuring out that at the end of the day, the work that I'm doing is my calling. It is who I am. So it does like feed me, but I also have to make sure I take time to take care of this body because it does not last forever. Huh?
Right.
And,
That's
and and it's been beautiful, but I had to like really be in burn myself out for the first part of my career to even know that this is a healthier way to go
Mhm.
about it. But it took a lot of hard lessons to get to where I am today.
Yeah, well, that shows that you are in tune with self, and prioritize, self care, and integrating work with travel and everything else that you're trying to balance. I think getting to that realization in terms of what's going to work well for you is something that's it's great that you were able to figure that out at this stage in life, because sometimes folks are 50, 60 years old and they're still trying to figure it out. So
Yeah.
that's definitely really important. And I hope folks are listening to take some note from what Camille just shared about taking care of yourself.
What I'll
Um,
say to Dr.
yeah.
Shelley to that, like
Mhm,
just in the last since we started the company,
mhm.
I had like two uncles, an aunt, my mom, all passed away, and all of them were like crazy hard workers working for companies and like going my aunt worked for paychecks and like
Mhm.
she put her health to the side to like work and nothing to show for it now because she passed away younger, right? And then even with my uncle, and so like I think there is like this generation before me where like they had, I mean, like in order to being Black and all these things, which I think we're going to get into. Like they felt as though they had to do that in order to be successful. But I'm looking at them and like they're no longer in my life. Like they've passed through like heart stuff, health stuff, all of these things. And so that's why for me, as we look towards, the future and how we build, I just think about like, oh man, like that can't be the way. Like there has to be a different way. But it is like these generational things that you get to learn,
Right.
seeing like your folks ahead of you, seeing what they go through.
Oh, absolutely. I know. Just in terms of just thinking about my parents, like my parents are around that retirement age now, and growing up, my vision of work was like, okay, you go to college, go to grad school, you're going to find a job and you work that job until you retire. And that was at that time, that was kind of like the model. And then it's been more recent in the last 20 years or so. Definitely in the last 10 is where that paradigm has totally shifted. Like you work at the job for a few years, you gain some skills, then you move to another company to kind of you learn new skills, get new experiences, increase your net worth as well, because every time you move, you're getting a promotion or you're getting a new title, you're getting more leadership and responsibilities. And then we've seen that shift. Like now folks are like entrepreneurship focused, like, you got the influencer industry, you got folks who are starting their own companies like us. So it's like I love just how we've really just like shifted that whole workforce paradigm in terms of what it looks like to be successful, as well as just I'll also like work life integration. I like how you said that instead of work life balance, work life integration.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. So another thing that's really exciting and I think important in terms of your work is that um, you know, we're both EV drivers, and so like obviously walking the walk in terms of sustainability and thinking about amplifying clean transportation. Can you talk about what it's like to be an EV driver and how your experiences are impacting your work and how you approach business operations?
Yeah, I mean, so I became an EV driver maybe about a year ago, and it was actually because at ChargerHelp for our executive team, we give stipends towards if you get an electric vehicle, so you get a monthly stipend, and that was very helpful to me because the car that I had before, I got that car, in college, like it was paid off, and
Mhm.
it had like 170,000 miles on it, and and so yeah, it took me a long time to like leave my car, but it took
Mhm.
our company making a decision in regards to, like this is important to us, and we also know there is a financial burden. And so this is how we, as a private industry, we can help our employees. So I thought that was really neat. But that pushed me to get my first electric vehicle, and I feel so cool. Like I mean, I have a Model Y, and
Mhm.
my co-founder and I, we both have like matching Model Ys.
Oh, she has a white Model Y too
Yeah,
now?
she has a white one. I have a black one.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
but it's, I mean, and the crazy thing is, a lot of my good friends had gotten electric vehicles before me.
Uh-huh.
And so now, like on the weekends, because I don't have home charging, so we'll go meet up to charge. Like one of my brothers, he had an electric vehicle way before me, and now like we go meet up on Saturdays to like go charge
I
our
love it.
cars,
Love
and
it.
it makes it cool. I mean, like I think like that's
Yes.
like one of the neat things about this. As you start getting like cooler cars and different
Mhm.
experiences, it does open yourself up to get new experiences on how you can connect with people. But I really enjoyed it, but it did take me a while, and I don't know if Charger Help didn't help with the payments of it, how I would
Mhm.
have been able to do that because I had already, paid off my car, so I wasn't paying a car note, and it was hard for me to like make that jump into like having a higher car note. So
Yes.
but that's
And
where the private industry and employers can play a role, with their employees. But now every one of my executive team members, we all have electric vehicles.
that's fantastic. I love the idea of really encouraging that at all levels. So giving the stipend, I've seen a couple other organizations do that as well. So I love that, that support and the resources that you're allocating, because it is hard to go from having no car note, because I currently have no car note too, to having to, pay for another vehicle. And so I do have an EV as well. And I love my EV, but I've been eyeing other EVs, and I'm like, but I'm also thinking like, oh boy, now I gotta go and have a car note. It's like another bill.
Yep. Look, we're entrepreneurs, so I'm like,
Right.
every penny counts.
That is true. That's true. So I want to talk, I guess, a little bit more about your career path. Obviously, you've worked in industry for quite some time. Did you always know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur? I know you worked in banking. You worked obviously in the e-mobility technology sector. Where and when did you get this bug or interest in entrepreneurship, as well as thinking about it from like the e-mobility sector?
Yeah, so the crazy thing is my dad actually started, my parents are from Belize, and when my dad migrated here, well, he migrated when he was like 5, but
I think I
he
knew they
started,
were Vietnamese.
huh?
I don't think I knew that you had like a Central American slash
Oh, yeah.
Caribbean background. So yes,
Oh,
big up
we're
to that
Belize.
Caribbean.
Yeah, and so yeah, so my dad actually started his company when he was 22, and so my dad used to build out computer networks. So before
Okay.
there was a cloud, he would work with like a lot of Black doctors in LA,
Mhm.
and Black surgeons to actually build out their computer networks and their phone systems and all of that. And so my whole life I've been exposed to entrepreneurship, and because of that, I always was like, I will never own my own company. I was like,
Look
this
at
is
that.
for the
Look
I was
at
like,
that.
this is for the birds. Like, I want to work for someone. Like, I want to talk to like Derek in HR. Like, I want to make sure my check is always here in 2 weeks.
Every two
Like,
weeks.
like
Yes.
I was like, Dad, this is like beautiful. He put what 4 of us through college. Like, this is beautiful that
Yes.
you're doing this, but like because when the moments were great, they were great. But then when the moments weren't great, they weren't. And my dad, Black guy in LA, really young, in computers, making good enough money, but like there wasn't capital to scale his business. Like there weren't incubators, there weren't
Right.
accelerators. So he really had to like figure this all out from the ground up. And he was one of the first folks in his family to make good money. So even
Mhm.
with that, comes with a lot. And so I just really knew realistically that like it is not the glitz and the glamour. Like building is extremely difficult and you have to have a strong why to
Right.
do it, right? And so I guess what changed for me, like once we got in, I think I started to like creep into it, right? So with the curriculum with Lacey, I didn't really have a company then. We were just training people, but I couldn't get those people like placed. And my old company I worked for, one of the guys there was just like, well, I have a bid open. Like we can't hire them, but if you hire them, we can put you on the bid and you can do the O&M because I've been exposed to O&M for a really long time. And so operations and maintenance. And so yeah, that's kind of like when I formed the business, it kind of like got thrust into it. But as we moved along through it, the interesting space that I'm in now and how I view it is that I guess like to give a different perspective on how you can build, right? Like we really try to like build in an equitable way. Like we really try to think about salary. I really try to think about my parents that like worked so hard. My mom who was in the union and all these things, but like never made good money. Like I really try to think about all these things as I build. And so that is my why now, is that
Mhm.
why I didn't want to do this. But now we have 42 people that work at ChargerHelp. And I want to see like, can I allow them to have a better experience? And can I expose them to this industry that they can grow and do the things? Like those are the things now that pushes me to do it. But from the beginning, I was like, no.
That is incredible. It's like you said, no, that is not my lane. That is not for me. And look, here you are being extremely successful. But then maybe it's a testament to what you saw and learned, as a child up to the present, and you're like able to avoid some of the things that you know didn't work well. And then obviously, like your dad was just like ahead of his time in terms of like if he had that business now, there would be just so many opportunities present for him from like the incubator to startup dollars to, all the different ancillary support services that, new companies have available to them. So I'm glad that he instilled some of those values and that tenacity in you to be able to take this forward.
No, absolutely.
Now, just thinking about, I've been knowing you and Yvette Ellis is Kameale's COO and fellow co-founder as well. So she's part of the executive leadership team. And so I've been knowing you guys for a while, seeing you how you're progressing and growing the company, and obviously been cheering for you guys and trying to support you guys in whatever way we can. So, what are your thoughts about how we get more women involved in this space, particularly, Black women specifically? We're Black women. We're not going to act like it's just a woman issue, but then we also have to tease out the part about, um, you know, minority women, Hispanic women, etc., Native and tribal women, getting them exposed to the space. So, based on your experience, what initiatives and training would you say would encourage more women to consider career opportunities or career path in the clean transportation sector, and even possibly pursuing entrepreneurship?
No, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest things that I've heard from folks is that they don't see how they fit. Even when I first asked Yvette to be my co-founder, like she said no, because she was she was she was like, well, one, she's 10 years older than me. So she was like, this young lady, like, what's she talking about? Co-found, like that, yeah, she was like, no. Um, but she also
She
said
did
she
it
just didn't see
every
how
2 weeks in the bank account too.
right, right. And I didn't have any money then. So I was like, oh yeah, you want to go chase your dreams? She was like, girl, no. Like,
Right,
what is wrong with you? How much you gonna pay me? I was like, I can't pay you now, but I can give you
right,
equity.
right.
Like
He's like,
I
I owe you for payment.
yeah, I mean, the other thing she said, she was like, she literally did not see how she fit. And I think that as the industry grows, it would be so, I think it's very important for us to show that, like, they're not necessarily net new jobs, right? Like we still need to like you still need accounting, like you
Still
still
need
need customer
HR.
success, you still need HR, you still need, people ops. And so it was showing her, and exposing to her and also her starting to see it for herself that like her skill sets was not only transferable, they were incredibly needed.
Mhm.
They were extremely desired from the industry. And you see that now, like Yvette got to invite, she'd been to the White House, she got to introduce the VP. Look, she real out there. I'd be like, can I come too? But it's because like the work that she did through the Department of Labor and Job Corps, like those types of skill sets have not necessarily been highlighted in the climate space. Like it's been full of like scientists and engineers. But now in order for these industries to truly scale and reach massive adoption, you have to incorporate these other positions that have already proven, right, that they know how to do that. Like Yvette can train and place people into work.
Yeah.
That's a unique skill set. Like everybody thinks that workforce development is so easy. It's very nuanced and intricate of understanding where people are and if they're ready for certain positions. Like Yvette's been doing that since she was like 13, and so
Wow.
and so so like that, and even like we have a learning and development department, and my learning and development team is led by a Black woman, and she came from the nonprofit sector, and she also was like, well, I don't like, how do I fit in climate, like, and I was
Mhm.
like, oh no, like, and she's redeveloped the curriculum now that we have a Society of Automotive Engineers. She is the one that took my, like, I googled how to like write a curriculum, and she
Mhm.
she made it like a real curriculum. So like, because she's been developing curriculum for like the last 30 years. And so I
Mhm.
think
Mhm.
it's like the more that we have opportunities like this in your platform to showcase that not only are these positions transferable, they are desired and extremely needed for us to meet the goals that we have, as a world, right?
Right.
To reduce some of the harm that we've done to our
Yeah.
planet.
Yes, exactly. And I love how you share that it's not like you have to create like this whole new role. Like, we still need like the curriculum designer. We still need like the career training HR kind of coach executive. We still need the accountant because we got to get people paid and they want to get their checks every 2 weeks.
Is that
So
fact?
there's still a lot. I mean, there's obviously just a lot of opportunities around innovation and entrepreneurship, but then we still have like these traditional roles that are still needed in any organization or any company.
Yeah. And I think I'll add to which, I've always been really big on is like just also demystifying like some of the projects that we're working on. Like one of the things that was so big for me with EV charging was that it was so confusing, and there was no place that you can go to know it, like what's a CMS, what's OCPP, like what's EV da 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 da. And so, but then we spent a lot of time demystifying those and just, I say, just making it plain for like regular people, but that also helps people to see where they fit. Cause sometimes I even talk to some founders and like they'll explain to me like what they're doing. I'm like, but what are you doing? And so I think also as an industry of like scientists and engineers and all folks that are in the nuance and like speak this coded language, how do we translate that for a general population and make it simple, right? Because at the end of the day, a lot of things that we're doing are very simple. There's fancy
Mhm.
language for it, but there is a way to allow it to be more inclusive. So I
Right.
think as an industry, we can continue to do a better job at that.
Wonderful. And so we need more people like you and your team helping us do that. Good, good. Okay, so we're going to shift gears for a minute, and then do something fun, and then we'll, kind of wrap up with a few career guidance kind of reflections and tips for folks. So, this is the part of the show where we get to know you a little bit better. We call it the 5 fun facts. And so, this has to do with just kind of what do you do when you're not working, or maybe like traveling tips. So, when you step away from your work life, where's your favorite place to vacation? And if you have to pick between these three locations, the beach, a city, or the mountains?
I love the mountains.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, awesome. Do you have a favorite like mountain area that you go to, or
I really like the
location?
sequoias. I
Okay,
really like sequoias. They have like really, really large trees. And I think it makes life just, you put everything in perspective. I'm like, those trees have been around for hundreds of years. And here
right.
you are with your little lifespan, compared to those massive trees. So it just really
Right.
humbles you,
Mhm.
and allows you to see that, there will be things after you and there was things before you.
Yes.
And so everything can't be big and stressed, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, the
Okay,
mountains.
wonderful. Thank you. I think that's the first time somebody has said the mountains on the show. So thank you for sharing that. So, okay. So I know you travel a lot. You shared earlier that you just took 2 back-to-back red eyes. So that is a lot of travel. So when you are traveling, what would you describe as your best travel hack? Like what would what's your favorite travel tip or hack?
Okay, so I have 2.
Okay.
One is that the Delta Lounge is my saving grace, like, because they have showers, and so, like, with these trips, I had to be in, like, 3 different cities really quickly, and I couldn't book a hotel, so I would go to Delta Lounge, I shower, I get ready in there, so that, like, just reduces time, and sometimes some of the Delta Lounges have, like, places you can lay out, take a nap. So I'm, like, here for the Delta Lounge. And then the second is, which I didn't do this last night, but always have a blanket. Like these planes are not set up to keep you warm. Carry a blanket, you can put it over your head, get a little good
Yes.
sleep. But yeah, those are my 2 travel hacks: Delta lounges and having a blanket.
Okay. I love it because it was funny about that shower tip is that I had to use the Delta lounge shower at, I think it was DTE, so
Oh
Detroit
yeah,
Metro, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is like a awesome, like bathroom. I can get ready for this meeting and just like come refreshed, like I just stepped out the hotel, and really it was like I got off the plane and took a quick shower.
right.
So that was
It's
awesome.
it is so great. I'm like,
Yes.
ooh,
And
thank
then
you, Delta.
to add to your tip about the blankets, so I have a pillow. Well, it's a blanket slash pillow. So when you fold it up and zip it up, it actually is a pillow. So you can
Oh,
either use it as a pillow or a blanket. But yes, having that blanket is clutch because some of these planes are freezing.
so
Yes.
cold.
And I
Yeah, the
don't
plane
believe
on
in
last
using
night.
plain I can't
Yeah,
use the plain blanket because I don't know who
no,
was using that blanket
right,
before me, so I need to
right.
bring my own. All right. Okay. So, a couple more, questions with the fun facts. So when you're traveling, what's one thing that you won't leave home without?
Oh, won't leave home without.
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know. was just like simple things like my computer. Like there's nothing special, I guess. I have like I one thing I will say, like I have like a pre-packed. I have all of my travel stuff always pre-packed, so maybe that's
Mhm.
what it is.
Okay.
I don't have to repack anything, which is really nice. Like all of my toiletries, they're always in a suitcase, and so I just have to like throw clothes in there. So maybe that's
Yes.
what it is. But yeah,
Okay. I'm with you on that too. I keep the toiletries, like travel size toiletries
yep,
packed. All I have to do is throw in whatever the outfit is. And typically it's like black and white. So people see me when I'm traveling. Typically it's black and white. Every now and then I will throw in some color
yes.
just to
One thing
mix
I
it
don't
up.
leave without are my dunks. So I strayed away from wearing heels a while ago. So I always have a new pair of like dunks that I wear, and my technicians
Yes,
love it.
I saw that
Um,
you've been doing that. I love it. I had a colleague, we were on a panel and she had this like fabulous suit on, and then she had like some Adidas sneakers, and I was like, I love that. Instead of heels,
yes,
like mix it up sometimes, and I'll wear some like jazzy sneakers.
yes.
I like it. Okay, so last two questions. The next one is, what are you currently reading? Like, what are you
Mm.
reading
I am reading a book. The title is crazy, but it's called A Paradise Built in Hell.
now?
And
Okay.
the book specifically looks at moments of catastrophe
Mhm.
in human society and how community members took care of one another. So it looks at like when the night when 9/11 happened, like there was a lot of things that the government did, but there were a lot of these things that just regular people did in order to make sure people were fed or people were taken care of. And so I'm almost to the end of that, but it's a beautiful book just looking at all these major moments. But we always think that, oh, if there's a major moment without government, that people would be chaotic and mean to one another. But it's actually been like these moments where we just like stop and slow down and just make sure we're okay, and there
Right.
isn't any formality to it. And so this is it's really beautiful. But yeah, the
Mhm.
title, people were like, "What are you
No,
reading?" I was
I
like,
love
"It's beautiful." But
I love that. Okay. And so our last question is for the fun facts are, what form of mobility did you last use? So was it rideshare? Was it your EV? Was it light rail or what else? I think I kind
yeah,
of know what it
my,
is based on our
yeah,
conversation.
yeah, my EV. I just drove here.
Okay.
Which I'm very happy Lacey has free workplace charging. So, as someone that doesn't have charging at their home,
See, you're
workplace
using work.
charging is a win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, definitely. And you may not have to do your Saturday meetup, I guess, because you're already charged up today.
True.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for playing and sharing a little bit more about, yourself. So before we wrap up our conversation, I want to circle back to some things that we talked about in terms of, engaging more women in this space. Um, can you talk about the importance of mentorship and having, good mentors along the way, particularly as you've gone through this journey of starting your company, you're doing extremely well, you're scaling. What words of wisdom would did these mentors provide you that have made a difference in your success?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like two roles. Like, there's folks that you just pay attention to. Like, I think about you, Dr. Shelley. I think about Professor Wasilika Talbot, Natalie
Mhm,
King from Dunamis. And so there's like these women that like we connect here and there, but then just seeing how they move and it allows you to know what's possible. You
mhm,
know what I mean? Like I've always appreciated how you've approached like this industry from a health perspective. And that also helped me connect dots. So it's not only like learning from like how you all move, but also like what you
mhm.
can glean from that to see how it works in your life. Like with Natalie King, she makes charging stations, and I'm just like, you make
Right.
something one day, I will make something. And with Salika, even with
Yes.
the DOT and autonomous vehicles, and even how she thinks about autonomous vehicles. So
Mhm,
it's like it's so incredible to see like these powerhouses move, how they think, and then being able to connect that. And then the other piece that I've always had is that I've always had a coach, like a leadership coach.
okay.
Having like coaches have always been specifically white men, huh?
Mhm,
But it's been very helpful for me to understand and like having folks that you trust. At the once you pass like race and gender, all these things, it comes down to like
mhm.
how do you trust this person? How do you connect with this person? And so
Yeah.
having like these coaches that can help me, have difficult conversations, say, hey, I'm feeling this way. Like, how can I navigate this space? That's
Mhm,
been very helpful. But I am a firm believer in, especially with people that have been in different places than you and people who haven't, like just shutting
mhm.
up and listening, huh? And just like not always being the one to have to say what you've done, but just I love just sitting in spaces and just listening to what people have done and how they move, and then you're like, oh, that's so interesting. So yeah, so I think you can find mentors that maybe you're not talking to them all the time, but you follow them. And then I think that the biggest part, that as if you wanted to get into a space, is to really be quiet and listen.
I
I
love
think you learn so much.
I love that. I think that kind of dovetail into my last question in terms of like the advice that you would offer women or other individuals who are interested in working in the e-mobility or clean transportation sector. I just like there may be some other tips that you want to add, but from what you shared is like one is, be quiet and listen. Also, I call it like what you just shared in terms of like your coaching, executive coaching and mentorship. It's kind of like have like your board of directors. So there's somebody that you're going to go to for like, legal advice or for like, those like the girlfriend moment, or there's somebody who you're going to talk to about, just emerging issues in the sector, or, how you should be operating as like a CEO and as a leader. So you have this kind of like this diverse board of folks who are in your corner who can provide different expertise, but all of it is like really important to how you move and operate in the space. Are
Absolutely.
there any other things that you would in terms of like advice, like where to look, who to go to, like what people should be honing into or looking for there in terms of like opportunities to enter the space, even like maybe thinking about it from like both a kind of like entry point, like so somebody maybe who is coming to the space with no work experience, but they just have an interest in it,
Mhm.
all the way up to somebody who is, seasoned and they want to pivot from, one industry into the clean transportation and e-mobility sector.
Absolutely. I think I would share three things, and then the
Mhm.
two will support the last kind of like tangible resource. I
Okay.
mean, I think the first thing is that I feel like very privileged to, like, I understand about myself that I don't think there's no room that I don't belong in,
Mhm.
and I don't think there's any barrier to like what I can accomplish. Will things be hard? Of course, but there's nothing that I can't do, like literally nothing. Huh? And then I think the other piece to it is I'm very trying to be self-critical of like myself and my leadership and how I show up.
Mhm.
And as a Black woman, sometimes you have to filter that through to understand, like, okay, if this is this feedback, a feedback that is true, is it, based in, certain things, but like always trying to figure out how can I be a better human. And I think
Mhm.
with those two things, when you don't go into new rooms, it helps you be able to be successful in those new rooms. So like when I first got into this space, you know, I would go to every networking event and just try to, learn and meet people. But with those two things, understand that there's no room that I don't belong in, and that I am self-critical. So making sure, like, am I talking too much? Am I trying to control this, or like, how am I
Mhm.
showing up those spaces? So people will want to talk to me and help me, right?
Right.
And as an example, like right now, like after I'm done with ChargerHelp, I really, really want to produce movies. Like I'm very interested in
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
'Cause it's very similar to like venture, right? And
Mhm.
production. And so, but what I've been doing is that I go to a lot of movie festivals.
Okay.
And I went to Sundance. I went to the Black Movie Festival here, and I just
Mhm.
go and listen. And but I don't. And even though in these festivals, a lot of people are producers and actors, and it would be easy for me to be like, "Oh, I don't belong here," like because I'm not this. I don't really know what I want to do. But just go, right? And so I just think that if you want to get immersed in a space, like find those events that those industry folks that are experts are there, and just go absorb it, and you learn so much by just being there and seeing how people move. So when I am ready, which may be in the
Mhm.
next 4 years, I will have learned so much, right? If
Mhm.
I if I didn't stop myself, be like, oh, I don't belong here, I shouldn't go here, or if I am there, I'm trying to talk too much or whatever. So I just think like those two things really help when you want to get into a new space.
That is, I love what you share. That is so insightful in terms of just being in this, kind of really being in the space, just being open to going to different events and new opportunities, and just kind of being present and listening and soaking it all in. And it's like you're keeping this information for when you're ready to utilize it. You have the exposure and the knowledge in terms of how to navigate the space, but I love that analogy because that is so applicable to, thinking about clean transportation and just how to network and how to move and operate and learn from people who are working in this space. So learn what went well for them, learn what didn't work so well. So that was, I think that's just so insightful. I love the way that you thought about that.
Thank you. Can I give one example? It was so interesting to me
Yes,
the other
absolutely.
day when I
Hmm.
first started ChargerHelp, like back in 2020. We really wanted to go to South by Southwest, right? Like we as an I, because I was the only person.
Okay.
And nobody really knew me, you know what I mean? Like no one. And then like somebody like randomly was just like, oh, well, you could just go and just show up. And so I would just went and just showed up and didn't really know anybody. It was very awkward. But then just this past year, I was invited to not just one, three panels at South by Southwest. And it was a big deal that I was there. So I say
Right.
this to say that sometimes you may get into these spaces and feel awkward, but you
Mhm.
just never know, just with time, what will happen.
Absolutely.
And I could have never have thought when I first went there, I was like, oh, nobody is talking to me, like nothing, nothing, nothing. But then next, what,
Right.
3 years, 4 years, I'm on
Is
three panels at the main stage talking
right.
about stuff. I was like, that's
See?
crazy.
That is just awesome, that that just goes to show that you just never know where things are going to take you, and you just got to be open for those next opportunities, and you got to be ready. And you wouldn't have been ready if you hadn't been in these rooms, patiently soaking it in, doing your due diligence to learn your space, learn your craft. And obviously you have a lot to say, and have a lot of great experiences to share, lots of insight. So, we definitely just appreciate you actually being here today and just sharing your experience, and how you have been navigating this space, and just also, what folks who are interested in learning more and joining us in this e-mobility transition, how they can get involved and engaged. So we definitely appreciate all the value and the insight that you provided today.
No, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Shelley, for continuing to create, platforms such as this. It's a huge, huge, huge thing. So we're forever grateful for you and the organization that y'all stood up as well.
You're
I gotta
welcome.
say thank you to Terry too, right? Huh?
Yes. I'm gonna give Terry a shout out.
Terry too.
No. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, she is Kameale Terry. She's the CEO of ChargerHelp. And thanks to our viewers for tuning in, and to our team at EV Noir, EV Her, for supporting this series. Please stay tuned and check out other sessions as well, where you can learn more about the role of women in this sector. So again, I want you guys to follow Kameale on, tell us all your social so that we can follow you.
Just Kameale Terry, and I'm the only Kameale Terry spelt like that. So yeah,
Yes.
you can find me Kameale Terry on everything.
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
definitely make sure you follow her on every piece of social media that is out there. So again, on behalf of EV Noir, EV Her, this is Dr. Shelley Francis, also Dr. EV Shelley on social. We'll see you next time. And when we get a chance to chat more about women in e-mobility. So take care. Thank you, everyone.